Welcome to another episode of Talking About Records. My name is G.I. Sanders, owner of NTX Vinyl, which is a small chain of independent record stores located just north of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If you're not familiar with NTX Vinyl, you can check it out on the website, ntxvinyl.com. You can also follow us here on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you're watching. Really appreciate it. Today's video is a simple one. Everybody likes year-end lists, and I am no different. It's fun to look back at the past year of music and see what you've been spinning, see what has really resonated throughout the year, what's stuck with you. I think that's a big thing for an album when it comes out. If it kind of has longevity throughout the year, and if you can look back, months after it was released and you're still into it and you're still spinning, I think that shows a lot. I know for me and my top 10 albums of 2021, a lot of these have remained in regular rotation, which is a testament to the quality of the music. And I think it's also a testament to the last year or two in regards to the pandemic and artists not being able to tour, being hunkered down and focusing on recording, which has been interesting for the world of music, especially for musicians and their crews and everything that goes along with that. But for the artists who put their time into the recording aspect of their career, which was a lot of them, I think the quality really has shown, and I think this list is indicative of that. So let's kick it off. I'm going to count down my top 10. I tried to put them in order. Order's really hard. But I tried to get from 10 down to 1 as far as my favorites are concerned. Again, these are all albums that new releases that came out in 2021, so not reissues of older albums. The first one we're going to start with came out way back in February of 2021, which I believe is the oldest one on this list, going back to the beginning of the year. And this is the Foo Fighters' Medicine at Midnight, a really fun record. Lots of press around this album. Dave Grohl, typically very vocal, and they actually recorded this before the pandemic hit, which was interesting. So they had this album already finished and in the bag, and then they decided, well, let's wait it out and see what happens. And they eventually got tired of waiting and put it out, and have since started touring a little bit and have done a bunch of shows, which is awesome to see. This is the exclusive, indie exclusive on blue vinyl, which is a really cool translucent blue. So that's really nice. It also came with a slip mat, which is cool. Again, I mentioned a really fun record. They talked about how this was kind of their idea of a dance record, which in a lot of ways makes sense. And then now knowing that they recorded the DG's record around kind of the same time, or at least in the last couple of years, it makes sense. The single on this, the main single, I believe, was Shame, Shame, which was an awesome song. But through and through, Cloud Spotter, the title track, No Son of Mine, is one they played a lot. Love Dies Young, a lot of great tracks. Nothing out of the ordinary for the Foo Fighters. I think it goes without saying at this point that if you're a Foo Fighters fan and you pick up Foo Fighters releases, you kind of know what you're going to get, and I'm fine with that. I'm at peace with that. They're not a band where I expect them to go outside the box and do different genres, unless you're talking about the Bee Gees covers. But it's a rock record. It's got some elements of pop and kind of more upbeat upbeat stuff. Again, they mentioned it kind of has a dance vibe, which I think there's a little bit of that throughout this with the extra instrumentation. But for me, it's a solid record. I've listened to it a lot throughout the year, and it came at a time when I think everyone needed a new Foo Fighters record. It's an easy listen. It's short and sweet, and the songs are really great, and it really shines live. If you watch the live recordings, or if you picked up it, or if you saw them live, I missed them when they came through the South this year. But hoping to check them out when they come next time, and I hope they play some of these songs. So great album. Again, no big surprise here. Big Foo Fighters fan, big alternative rock fan. So I'm glad there's a rock band like the Foo Fighters still around, still making great tunes, because that means a lot for someone who's been listening to them for many, many years. All right, so that's number 10. Number 9 on my list. This is one that just came out recently. I haven't had that many listens of it, but I'm pretty confident this one's going to stay in regular rotation for a while. Speaking of artists who have been around a little bit and who have put out a few albums, let's talk about Neil Young with Crazy Horse and their latest album, Barn. This is a really special record. There's a film that goes along with this that I have not checked out yet. I'm really looking forward to. You can see the photo of the barn. That's where they recorded it. I've watched a few interviews with Neil about the making of this record. It is all done live. It's all done analog, straight to tape. Most of these, or several of these recordings that you hear on this album, are first takes or second takes live in the room. So that's really special in this day and age, and I think it really speaks volumes on this album. It's a beautiful record, beautiful kind of scenery, and it's all about the environment, the barn that it was recorded in. And Neil and Crazy Horse don't get together all that often anymore, so it's special when they do, and I think this one is really plays into that, because there's some great songs on this. Favorite songs on this: Heading West is a great song. Welcome Back is an incredible song. Shape of You. There's a lot of great songs. Again, highly recommended if you're a Neil fan. Check this out. It's amazing to me that this far into his career he can still put out such a quality album. It just speaks volume to his talent and to his relationship with Crazy Horse, that they can just get in a room, whether it's a bar or anywhere, and still crank out a great rock record. So I am looking forward to spinning this even more, because again, it just came out recently in December. But I think I anticipate this will stay in my kind of new arrivals rack for a while and get some frequent spins. So check out Neil Young's Barn if you haven't yet. Neil Young and Crazy Horse, definitely worth a listen, especially if you're a Neil fan. All right, number 8, counting down. That was number 9, counting down to number 8. This is pretty unique for me that a soundtrack would make it on any best of list, just because I'm not a huge film guy, honestly. But I am a huge fan of Sean Penn, and I am a huge fan of Eddie Vedder, and I am a huge fan of Glenn Hansard. And that's why Flag Day, the original soundtrack, has made it on my list. I actually have not seen the film yet. I'm looking forward to it. I've got it kind of saved. Looking forward to checking it out. I have watched the trailer. I kind of know the gist of the movie. But for me, the fact that Sean Penn, who's really good friends with Eddie Vedder and who had already partnered up on the Into the Wild movie and soundtrack many years ago, which is just an incredible listen. This works it works just as well, in my opinion. I'm really interested to see how these songs interact with the film. I was hoping to watch the film before I did this video, but I just didn't get a chance. But to me, the Eddie tracks are great on this. The Glenn Hansard tracks are the standouts. They are absolutely phenomenal. Tender Mercies is an amazing song. Also, the Cat Power is the other musician who's involved in this throughout. She's got a couple songs on this that are really great. And then you have My Father's Daughter, which is the title track, which is a song written by Eddie Vedder and Glenn Hansard, featuring Eddie's daughter, Olivia, on lead vocals. And I believe it's her first track that she's ever really recorded and officially released. I'm sure she's recorded stuff before. But it's a really special track. I was fortunate to see her sing it live with the band, Eddie and the band who recorded this, at the Ohana Fest, and I'll mention that a few other times, I think, because it was a big event for me in 2021 back in September. But this soundtrack in particular and that song, I really set the stage for just a great vibe, a soundtrack through and through. Again, it's hard not to compare it to Into the Wild for me, just because of Eddie's style, and it's got some similarities to this, where he's got some instrumental stuff, some acoustic-based stuff. The other standout on here is they've got Eddie's cover of the REM song Drive, which is an amazing song, and I think a great cover. So check out Flag Day if you haven't already. Again, pretty unique for me for a soundtrack to make a best of list, but this one had to be there. Just came out recently. This just came out in December as well. On vinyl, at least. I think it's been released earlier in the year, but I waited to kind of hear it on vinyl, other than maybe hearing that title track by Olivia Vedder. But this one's really special. Looking forward to spinning it more in the future, especially as I check out the movie. So maybe an additional video there. So that is number 8 on the list. Let's go to another artist. This is one that an album that came out in July, and for me, it was an artist I'd never really listened to. I'd heard the name, so it was not only me discovering this album, but also discovering the artist as a whole, which is awesome. That is Duran Jones and the Indications. This is Private Space. This is an incredible record. It's actually a really cool vinyl too. Comes on like a pink and purple kind of swirl, which is really cool. This is what I consider to be modern day's, the best of modern day R&B soul. Just an incredibly funky, soulful record throughout. The singles, Love Will Work It Out and Which You are phenomenal, but the whole album is actually really great. And for me, like I said, this was the introduction to the band for me. I'd heard the name, so I've gone back and listened to some other records by them, and it's all really good. I was fortunate enough to see this band at Ohana Fest as well, which was awesome. They put on a great show, really energetic, and just again, just a really fun listen. And just quality songwriting. I really struggle with people these days who say, oh, there's no more good music coming out. Like, I only listen to, stuff that came out back in the day. Like, that's not true. There is amazing music still being made across all genres. And this is a testament to that. Norah Jones and the Indications with Private Space. Definitely one that got a ton of spins for me throughout 2021, and honestly will probably stay in rotation because I'm getting into their whole catalog now. So if you're not familiar with these guys, check them out. Great album and a great band. Next on the list, this is going back to April of 2021. This was highly anticipated by me because it's a band that I have loved since they kind of came onto the scene a few years ago. This is their third full-length record, and this is Typhoons by Royal Blood. Really great album, an interesting kind of fresh take for this band. This is the indie exclusive that's on kind of a translucent blue. Their first two records, so first of all, this is, if you're not familiar with Royal Blood, they are a two-piece band. It is a drummer and a bassist / guitarist. It's an interesting setup. Look it up. So it's only two guys. They have additional instrumentation now, I think, when they play live a little bit on certain songs, especially some of these tracks. But their first two records were really straightforward rock albums, very influenced by, Queens of the Stone Age, maybe some of the Foo Fighters' heavier stuff. But this album was a bit of a departure for them. It's got a different sound. It's got some more instrumentation on it. I would say it's a little less guitar-driven. Maybe a little more synths on this album. But for me, I love a fresh approach. I'm glad they mixed it up. I'm sure these songs will absolutely kill live. I'm excited to see them if they ever come through. They are coming through Dallas, and unfortunately I'm not going to be able to make it. But I will check them out eventually. I've seen the band only once before. It was one of the best shows I've seen in a long time. That was on their second record, I believe. So check out Royal Blood. I can't say enough about how talented these guys are. Watching their lead vocalist play the bass, but also handle the guitar parts because he splits his signal out. It's just an unbelievable thing to watch. Super fun band. Again, if you're interested in newer artists making really relevant rock music, heavy rock music, this is one to check out. Royal Blood, that is. And then this album in particular, again, it's got a different vibe to it, but I really enjoy it. The songwriting's there, the hooks are there, and that's what Royal Blood's all about for me. So great band, and definitely, again, another one that got a lot of love for me in the past year. All right, next on the list, number 5. This is actually kind of a twofer. I'm going to cheat, and that is 2 albums, but I'm going to combine them into one, that Norah Jones put out this year. The first is Till We Meet Again, which came out back in April. So this has been out again for a little while. This is a compilation of live recordings that she put together again during the pandemic when she was stuck at home. So you get the idea. Till We Meet Again. So this was kind of her gift to fans who couldn't see her live because she couldn't tour. And then the second is her Christmas album, which I absolutely love. And to be honest, I don't own a ton of Christmas albums, but if it's got Norah Jones on it, I'm probably going to listen to it, and I have a lot. So these two have gotten an unprecedented amount of airtime in my home. Both are incredible. The live record, Till We Meet Again, has got a best of essentially her live tunes. It's got hits like Sunrise and Cold Cold Heart, Don't Know Why, and it's also got her cover of Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden. So just amazing recordings, all live, stripped down, mostly kind of her band that's, I think, maybe just a 3 or 4 piece band, so really stripped down kind of jazz based recordings. And then the Christmas record is cool. Obviously it's got some Christmas standards like Blue Christmas and Winter Wonderland. But then you've got, I think, a good maybe 4 or 5 songs that are original Christmas songs, which I think is a hard thing to do these days, because most people want, when they listen to a Christmas album, they want to hear the classics. I'm no different, but Norah wrote some incredible songs that are very, very well done, and I love the cover and the Christmas vibe. So check those out. If you didn't already pick this one up for the holidays, pick it up so you have it for next year, and definitely check out the live record as well. So that's my Norah Jones. Those are number 5 combined. So we got 4 left. Going to number 4. This came out back in July. Also very highly anticipated by me as a big fan. Probably the most, I would say, unique album that I really consumed a ton of this year. And that is John Mayer's Sob Rock. It is hard really to put into words what he did on this album. There was a bunch of different variants. This is kind of a pink and pink splatter or swirl, something or other. I think there were like probably 5 or 7 different variants of this album. You can tell by the cover, it just reeks of Miami Vice, which is the main way I think of this album. He went into a world of the kind of early to mid 80s and created this album. Everything from the promotional campaign to the artwork, most importantly to the music. He creates a vision. He has a vision and he takes it all the way. So songs like Last Train Home, which is like a very kind of Dire Straits, Eric Clapton vibe. But then you've got some kind of more pop stuff like New Light. Wild Blues, probably my favorite track on this album, one of my favorite tracks of the year. Shot in the Dark, Till the Right One Comes, All I Want Is to Be With You. Just, it's classic John Mayer. He gets into character. He switches it up almost every album or two. And if you listen to John talk about, why he did this and how it came about, he treats his albums kind of like films where he goes all in, he gets into character. And for that period of time, for those months, or in this case, I think it took him a while to record this one over the course of a year or two, he really just dives in and lives within that character. And for me, I really appreciate that, because if you're an artist and you've been around a long time, that's what keeps it interesting. And I think that's smart of him to do so he doesn't, so it doesn't go stale for him personally and for the audience. I'm looking forward to see how these songs come to life live and how they kind of mix in with his broader catalog. But all of the shtick and all of the, character aside, to me, the songs are what make this album. There's still some incredible songwriting, some incredibly clever lyrics, a lot of them tongue-in-cheek, which is classic John Mayer, which I have come to appreciate. I kind of laugh along with him at himself, because I think that's a big part of what he does, and I think that's a big part of what he does on this record. So if you haven't checked it out, give it a listen. Keep an open mind. It's a really unique record that, again, will take you right back to 1984, if you will. So Sob Rock will continue to get plenty of love on my turntable. Number 3, counting down. This one came out in October, and one that is still in very heavy rotation. That is The War on Drugs. I Don't Live Here Anymore. This is a double LP. I believe this is an indie exclusive version. Yeah, that's on blue vinyl. This is a hard thing to say, but I think this is their best album to date. I think it's their 4th or 5th full length, and I love some of their other records. But to me, this album, man, talk about painting a picture. It just has such a subtle, gentle approach to a rock record. It's got very much, to me, a Tom Petty kind of Bob Dylan vibe in a lot of ways, but with an indie rock coating on it. It's an interesting thing. The instrumentation is beautiful. There are layers and layers of keyboards on this album, and guitars. And it's just this is like a perfect Sunday morning listen to me. Although I've been listening to it all days and all times of the week. But this is a band that I think somewhat underground, they're a very indie feeling band that doesn't have a lot of radio play and hits and singles and things like that. Like none of that matters to them. I don't believe it certainly doesn't matter to me when I listen to them. I'm listening to the album as a whole. And again, kind of like Sabrak, this album really captures a vibe all in one, which I appreciate. They're writing it as an album. They're not putting out singles, one at a time, or really even focusing on that. You can tell it's written as a band in a room, recorded live. And if you listen to these guys live, they're phenomenal and they pull it off to a T. So War on Drugs, another artist that I've gotten into a lot in recent years, and this one I think is kind of the pinnacle for them right now. I'm sure they'll continue to write great records, but for me, I think this is their best record that they've put out, and that's saying a lot because I do love the earlier ones. So check that one out if you don't already have it in rotation. 2 albums left, and these were definitely the albums that probably got the most time on my turntable throughout the year and are still in rotation. Number 2 is Brandi Carlile's In These Silent Days. This is an autographed copy, which is awesome, that I got from her website. I think is the only place you could get it. It is on, I think, a crystal clear vinyl. There's also a gold vinyl version that was the indie exclusive. This record, it's interesting for me. I got into Brandi just in recent years, so I can't say I'm a fan that dates back to the beginning. It's been about probably 2 or 3 years since I started listening to Brandi, and so this one was highly anticipated because I was kind of waiting to see how she would follow up her big record that she got nominated for Grammys for and all that just a couple of years back. I think similar to War on Drugs, I want to say this is probably her best album to date, and she's got a pretty extensive catalog dating. I think she's probably got 6 or 7 full lengths, if I'm guessing off the top of my head. I love The Firewatcher's Daughter. I love the story. I love the last record. I'm blanking on the name, with the album with the joke on it. But this one I think stands above them all. The songwriting is just that good. The title track, which is very much, straight down the middle rock ballad, is phenomenal. You and Me on the Rock, Broken Horses, Letter to the Past, Stay Gentle, Sinners, Saints, and Fools. It's all phenomenal. You can just tell she's hit her stride as a songwriter, which I'm excited about, because that means she's going to keep going. I'm sure she's got more songs in the bag and is going to continue to produce more great music. So that excites me more than anything, that this deep into her career, that she's just kind of still producing at such high quality and the songs are flowing, and she's just a young artist that I think has got so much future ahead of her. So if you're into kind of Americana, rock, pop, this is an amalgamation of all of those. It crosses over genres, just like everything Brandi does. But to me, I think it stands alone as one of her most important albums, certainly, and maybe even her best. Still getting a lot of love on my turntable. Brandi Carlile's In These Silent Days. I had the opportunity to see her live just a couple months ago, which was the first time I'd seen her, and that was also at a Hana Fest, where I saw Eddie Vedder perform a bunch of the songs from Flag Day. I also saw Duran Jones. I got to see Brandi. She performed a bunch of songs from this album and her hits from previous albums. She opened right before Pearl Jam played. The other band I saw at Ohana Fest, which I've seen many times, that has the number 1 album on my list for this year, is My Morning Jacket, their self-titled record. You've got to be kidding me that they can put out an album this good, this far into their career. Just such a special album. There's a number of different versions of this one. This is the Vinyl Me Please Club edition. That's kind of on like a split or a tricolor, translucent blue and orange. Just a beautiful record. This album is still in heavy rotation. It just came out in October, right around that time when I saw the band perform a couple of these songs live for the first time, which was phenomenal. They are, in my opinion, along with Pearl Jam, probably, and Foo Fighters, a couple of the greatest American rock bands, still highly relevant, performing at a high level to large crowds, whether it be arenas, stadiums, things like that. My Morning Jacket is one of those. This album is just a complete work of art. Regular scheduled programming is the first single they put out, which is a great track. Love, 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 In Color, Never in the Real World, Lucky to Be Alive, Complex, probably my favorite song off this record. I've almost named them all. It's such a great album. This version came with a fold-out poster, which is really cool. Fold out of the artwork. I'll show that, like a circular vibe poster, which is cool. Love it when they put kind of extra special things in the albums there. But for me, this was my album of the year. I think lyrically, it is really, you can tell this was written during the pandemic. They put out The Waterfall 2 very early in the pandemic, which was a lot of kind of songs left over from their album The Waterfall. And I think it showed. Like, there's some great stuff on that record, but there's also, you can tell when songs are kind of left over and then reworked on a little bit. And so I'm glad they put that out, but you can tell that they went in and focused on a new record and a new set of songs with this one. The songwriting, I think, is top notch. Some of the best work they've done. The songs are absolutely incredible live. I was so excited to see a couple of these songs performed live. And they mix in so well with the rest of their catalog, even though it's got kind of its own unique vibe. So I'm a huge My Morning Jacket fan, a huge Jim James fan. I think he's one of the best songwriters out there these days, writing kind of rock, alternative pop songs. And in this album, I think, again, along with The War on Drugs, along with Brandi Carlile, I think that's some of the best songwriting of these artists' career. And for me, that's what really hits me hard about this list, is that, yes, of all of the negativity around the pandemic and what it has caused in our world, one of the things that has come from it is some amazing music, because these artists were stuck at home. They couldn't tour. There is a sense of urgency behind them creating music as a way to get, express what they're feeling and what's happening in today's world. And I think this album, for me, more than any on the list and any that I listen to, kind of speaks to that. It's just a beautiful record through and through. The artwork, the packaging, the different variants that came out on vinyl, but most importantly, the tunes are there. So check out My Morning Jacket's self-titled record if you haven't. Highly recommend it. Super cool vibe, and I expect nothing less from those guys. So that's my list. That's only 10 albums. There are tons more that could have made the list. It was hard whittling these down. I would love to hear what's on your list. Definitely let me know in the comments, and let me know if you agree on any of these or disagree. I'd love to talk back and forth. So that's the best albums of 2021 coming from my point of view. Really appreciate you watching. We will catch you next time on another episode of Talking About Records.